to the regular meeting of Westminster Mayor and County Council. Council meets here at City Hall on the second and fourth Mondays of every month. Please note that council meetings, although open to the public here at City Hall, are also available and streamed live on the city's YouTube page, as well as the Community Media Center channel and website. Now begins, we do every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. With courtesy to everyone, ask everybody at the door to please silence your cell phones or pages or any other devices you might have that could disrupt the meeting. Copies of today's agenda and the entire information package the council will be using are available online on the city's website, and there are hard copies here in the front of the room for anybody who'd like to have one, a copy of the agenda rather, to follow along. So we've got a presentation tonight. Before we get into that, we always have a guest list. We usually have a guest list from McDaniel College. When Dr. Jaskin took office, she said that she was going to try as often as possible to send a member of her staff out here to give us a report on what's happening up on the Hill and to take back information on what's happening in the city to the college leadership. So tonight, we're pleased to have
Julie Fisher.
Julie Fisher, the Associate Vice President for Finance at the college. So.
Hello, thank you all for having me here today. Not much additional going on than probably was announced at the last meeting. We had a Minute Students Day the other weekend. It's Women's History Month, so we do have an award ceremony next week, and on March the 29th, they're having a women's owned business expo during the day. And that's everything.
Great, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And now it's time for our regular quarterly report from Magic. And Mr. Dodge, you still the chief magician at Magic? Is that what are you? Executive magician. Thank you. All right, good to have you again.
We're just stand.
That's fine.
That's good.
All right, so actually we're going to be doing a catch up of 2 quarters because we missed the last quarter. So this is 6 months worth of updates. For those, for the uninitiated, Magic is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based here in the city of Westminster. We have different programs that track workforce, students, entrepreneurs and startups, investors and funding, industry volunteers and mentors, and it helps us to output economic development, workforce development, startup acceleration, and startup investing. Our vision for the city of Westminster can be encapsulated by the hashtag Silicon Main Street, where we believe that this is a technology-driven economic development plan for Westminster to reverse the flow of commuters, to lead to net positive job growth and increase in city revenue, and all the while creating a sandbox infrastructure for technology innovation to thrive. The quarterly reports that we track for the city include a number of sponsors participating in special events. In the first quarter, there were 0. In the second quarter, there were 7. First quarter for us is July, August, September. Event sponsor revenue was again low in the first quarter because of the summer ending, but second quarter we had $5,520. Stakeholder revenue generated. This is a loosely defined term, but basically these are kind of like anyone that's not offering us a grant or any kind of program revenue or sponsorship, so like donors in this case. $450 in Q1, $10,950 in Q2. We submitted 3 grants each in both quarters this past 6 months. We had almost 100% success rate, with 2 of them being only 1 not being awarded. The first quarter, we had $95,895 awarded through, mostly that's from Knorr Brake, from their Global Care Grant. And then in Q2, we had $55,000. And then for multi-year grants, 0 for the first quarter, but $90,000 in the second quarter, which is 30 times 3 over 3 years from the College Foundation. And then number of volunteers from venture capitalists, startups, and tech companies, we had 4 in Q1, 10 in Q2. Number of outreach meetings held with the city, with Westminster-based CEOs, 5 and 3. Number of outreach meetings held with business CEOs outside the city, 5 and 6. This is also part of our outreach in terms of getting CEOs to understand what we have to offer here. And then jobs placed and facilitated within the city, 0 and 2. Jobs placed outside, 0, 0. Number of conferences attended or hosted, 5 and 3. Number of conference events attended in which we promoted the Westminster Fiber Network, also 5 and 3. And then coverage in local and regional news media, 1 and 4 publications. So the overall accomplishments for Q1, these are sort of the highlights. We received a $77,000 grant from Carroll County to build the Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center. 6 sensor technologies donated 2 smart LiDAR sensors to ARC. This is our new Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center. We were awarded $8,000 from Truist Foundation for our Big Data Boot Camp, which teaches data science and Python to students online. We welcome 2 new paid interns from Wintersville High School, Kaden Selmer and Marie Oberman. We welcomed Lindsay Franey from the North Break to Magic's Board of Directors. We completed the esports arena project for the City of Westminster and McDaniel College, presented by our Johns Hopkins University PhD candidate, who was part of an internship program with Magic this past summer. Many of you were in the meeting where he presented this result. And then we hosted an online safety seminar at Carroll Lutheran Village. This was an extension of our grant funding we had received last year from the Gula Tech Foundation based in Howard County. Q2 highlights, we were awarded a $30,000 grant from Carroll Foundation specifically for the Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center. That's on top of a $90,000 multi-year grant that we received from them. So we actually received a $120,000 commitment from Carroll Foundation. We received $10,000 each from a large engineering firm called T.Y. Lin, and then from Baltimore Gas and Electric, and $25,000 grant from the Department of Housing, also for the Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center. So you can see a trend here. A lot of people are excited about the Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center. We hosted our second Good Game Fest in November. We had over 300 attendees, many of whom traveled in from outside of Carroll County. We had one person fly in from Las Vegas, who was one like the world-renowned Pokemon players, because we had a big Pokemon card tournament. This is at the Best Western. We launched our Spire Girls program, and Dr. Becker, Mayor Becker, was our first speaker at the Spire Girls program. We have another one coming up into this month at this Exploration Commons. That is a STEM leadership program for teen girls. We relaunched our Big Data Boot Camp with that grant from Truist, and that has a new instructor, a former NASA scientist, Nicola Carrera. She was introduced to us by Dynamic Dimension Technologies, where she's also a research scientist, and they're based here in Westminster. We hosted our Capture the Flag 13 with 64 students. We launched the Entrepreneurship Exchange Program. So this is really exciting. For those of you who don't know, Westminster is a sister city with Pi Day. Is that how you say it? Pida. How did you all say it? Pida. Okay. Pida, Estonia. And so we have been in touch with different representatives of Pi Day Estonia, mostly through their technology universities, one being Taltech, the other one being the Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Sciences. And what we have set up is a program by which we have student developers at these universities who will now be developing apps for our local entrepreneurs here in Westminster. So if we have someone who has a technology app-related idea, they don't have the means to build themselves or the know-how, we have teams now in Estonia that will help them build that. And that's starting up. We have 3 entrepreneurs who are benefiting from that program right now. We sponsored a $10,000 grant for Westminster-based Nurse Links. That's their founder right there. Judith Walker. So what that means is we actually are members of this association called the Maryland Business Innovation Association. Through that program, TEDCO, Maryland's venture fund, provides funding to them to give away basically as non-dilutive grants to different tech startups. And so we nominated Judith Walker in Nurse Links, which is based here in Westminster, and she received it. So she is now not only the recipient of those funds, but we then found her a developer who could actually build the entire app for her. And she's one of the people that's getting the access to the Estonian students. So not only is the money staying in Westminster because she's using local developers, but then we also have the students in Estonia that are helping with that as well. So that's a big success story for us in terms of how we can really help.
Yeah. And the ambassador mentioned.
Who was that?
The ambassador.
Oh, really?
You mentioned he was here.
Oh, excellent. That's great to hear. Thank you. And then we also got confirmation that TEDCO will be sponsoring further additional Westminster Angel Network meetings, which is our startup of trying to get high net worth individuals locally here in Carroll County to start investing in some of these startup companies. So that's exciting as well that they're getting behind that now. These are some of the logos. These are the logos of the sponsors and partners that have all contributed in some way, shape, or form to this new Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center. You can't see because it's cut off, but we have Kenor Brake, Collar Foundation, TYLN, BGE, Pi 3, which is they run the Robo Lion clubs for robotics competitions in Carroll County. Mach, formerly Land Sea Air, they're on 140, just outside the city, I believe. Six Sensor Technologies, I think they're based in New Jersey. Instrument Controls Inc., Mike Brecker, I don't think anyone knows Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he helped the windows in the old garage had these like steel things that were like levers to hold the windows up. And a lot of them are missing, so he cut new ones for us. Dynamic Dimension Technologies, Modern Comfort helped us with the HVAC. They came in and basically brought it up to code for us. Ting, Carroll County Public Libraries now since donated, I think almost close to 32 all-in-one Dell computers for the students to use in that facility. Gizmos Art donated, I don't know, over 100 feet worth of railroad tracks, Lionel gauge railroad tracks because our Ducky bots are going to interact with trains. That's why Kenor Brake's involved in all this too. So we're going to be bringing autonomous robotics with railroad intersections and model trains together. Baltimore Robotics Center in Baltimore donated a bunch of materials for us, and then here at Maryland donated to Ducati go-kart. Our students will be converting the autonomous EVs. And then here are some photos of the Good Game Fest from back in November. Several of the, we had different tournaments. The tournaments were the most popular part of the festival, although we also had seminars on what it means to be a good gamer and sort of gaming health and mental health in gaming. Lots of vendors from all over came out for this as well. So we really hope that the next one's going to be even bigger and better than before. So what's coming up next is, of course, we're still focused on getting the Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center opened up. So with the ribbon cutting is going to be April 17th, which is a Monday, which will correspond with the Maryland Department of Transportation Connected Autonomous Vehicle Working Group meeting. It's not unfortunately going to happen in Westminster because of the new administration. They wanted to have that at their headquarters in Hanover. But a lot of the members have already RSVP'd that they will come to Westminster after the meeting. So that's exciting. So I think we have about 16 people from that group.
Do you know when that's going to be?
What's that?
Do you know when it's going to be that day?
Monday, April 17th, 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. And then we had our next hackathon on February 25th. It was this past quarter. That was another successful hackathon event. We had, I think, 7 teams competing from across Southern Maryland, Carroll County. We had teams signed up from Allegheny County, but they didn't end up showing up. We have our next Capture the Flag event in April. We have more big data bootcamp classes, more game development classes. Those are both online, more online safety workshops for seniors. This is in partnership with Carroll Lutheran Village. So Kim, who's our programming director, goes out to Carroll Lutheran Village and presents about, all the different scams and things that, are impacting our seniors. Because they are the biggest targets right now for kind of online crime. We are going to be planning the next Good Game Fest and doing more of our Good Game on Main game nights, which we did all throughout the summer. It was the last Friday of each month leading up to the Good Game Fest, and those have been quite popular. So we're going to start probably those a little bit earlier than we did last year and keep those going as another Main Street event on Friday nights throughout the summer. And then, of course, we'll be applying for the fiscal year 24 budget request from the city and then updating our reporting metrics. And I put that in there because when the reporting metrics were created, I think it was before I joined with Magic. I want to say with a former council member had specific things in there that they wanted to put in that may not quite align still with what we're doing, like the stakeholders revenue. It's an unclear metric for us. So we want to sort of work with you guys to define the right metrics for tracking and doing our reporting. So it's good. And that's it. Any questions?
That's great. Any questions for Mr.
So mine's not gonna be questions, mine's gonna be comment. And I've been here since the very beginning with Magic already existed. And there was some pushback even then to start it. There has been pushback at times on and off over the years, depending on who's up here. Whether we should be funding you or not. This is just awesome stuff. And it makes me proud that along with my colleagues that we've been supporting it. And this is one of the meatiest reports I think you brought to us in a while. Not that they all haven't had stuff in them, but there's just a few things up there that I know you had to get through this quickly and we could spend a lot of time. You got some good stuff going. I'm really proud of you and really proud of what you guys are doing and proud that we're a part of it. And great timing for you to have to bring your budget request to us with a report like this. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Like anyone else? So we should talk about how the city could help you connect. If you need any help with the new administration in Annapolis, because I think a lot of folks are be exciting about what's happening here and they don't know enough about it. We should have that conversation.
I forgot to mention, I was asked to testify from the House Ways and Meetings Committee by TEDCO on behalf of their $500 million Equitech fund and commission, which is meant to help support rural entrepreneurs. That's why they had to come out and testify.
Well, they're good people in part of this.
Yes.
That's a good thing that they have.
$500 million is real good.
Yeah, right. But Petco certainly is. So that's okay. Very good.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Emma.
I'm wondering, does Magic know when you'll be ready to, looks like you've got a ribbon cutting for the Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center. Do you know when you'll be hoping to move in there?
Well, hoping to get the programs up and running. Probably.
No, I mean, actually physically move in there, start getting that up and running.
Oh, we're in there now. Yeah, we're physically in there now.
Do you know that? You're in there now? I'm not sure we've completed all the planning process on that, which is why I was asking that question.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk after the meeting maybe or tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
You got that sorted. So then when are you planning to get it up and running then?
We'd like to get some sort of summer programming, like a little summer camp or something like that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Yeah, let's get that fixed. All right, thank you, Mr. Dodge. Great to see you again. Good night. All right, move on now to the next item on our agenda, the approval of minutes. We have minutes from the meeting of the Mayor and Common Council on February 27th, 2023. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Gilbert and second by Mr. Dayhoff. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it and I have it. Report from the mayor, Dr. Becker.
All right, thank you, Council President Pecoraro. So I have a couple things just to mention tonight. I want to start by thanking Delegate April Rose for her sponsorship of House Bill 848 for our Pure Water Westminster project. We touched on the Senate bill briefly at our last meeting, but myself, Council President Pecoraro, Councilmember Hoff, along with city staff have been back and forth to Annapolis quite a bit over the last 2 months in working to secure a path forward for our water reuse project. I appreciate all the support that we have from our delegation on both through Senator Reedy and then through Delegate Rose as well as all the hard work behind the scenes by Council members Kabachi, Gilbert, and Dayhoff in promoting Pure Water Westminster. And I'm sure the other council members will also comment on our current success in Annapolis as we go through council report. I'd just like to make a note, sorry, I wanted to clear this with you, Tony, I forgot. I just wanted to make a note real quick that on March 1st, 2023, our police chief, Chief Ledwell, celebrated his 4th year as chief of the Westminster Police Department. I just wanted to say publicly that just thank you for your work and dedication in working towards and creating a safe community for all members of the city. I know over the last several years, you've definitely put us on the map with your approach to innovative community policing and training, and I could not be more grateful to have you at the head of our Westminster Police Department.
Thank you.
Monday, March 6th, I had the opportunity to spend about 45 minutes with the Carroll County crew. This is always one of my favorite things to do when I get to meet with with groups of young adults or children answering questions about being a mayor and leadership. There were about 40 4-Hers in attendance, many of who had an interest in local government. We had a great conversation, and we also spoke about showing cattle, which I did when I was in 4-H and FFA. I just also wanted to note that we have been incredibly busy over the last couple of weeks with some committee meetings. And I just want to thank the council for all the work that they've been doing over the last 2 months. I think we've been particularly busy over the last couple months, and everyone on the council has really stepped up to play a role. And then just 2 other items. On Friday, March 10th, I had the honor to interview the First Lady of Iceland, Eliza Reid, at the Eldersburg branch of the Public Library. I interviewed her about her most recent book, The Secrets of the Sprakar. It was a great conversation. The room was packed, and we talked about her book, and we talked about gender equity in Iceland. And it appeared from everything that everyone had a really phenomenal time at that event. And then last but not least, on Saturday morning, and I'll keep these brief because I know we're all going to talk about the Celtic Cantor. I taxed my cardio along with other members of the council in the grueling 0.5K fundraiser. It was cold, but at least it wasn't snowing. And then I spent the at least I spent the vast majority of the rest of the day in town. Restaurants were full, bars were full. In general, the weekends have been busy in town, but this really kicks off our spring, although it doesn't feel like it, summer season of festivals. And just a heartfelt thanks to everyone who assisted in the planning and the implementation of that day. It does not go unnoticed by myself or members of the council. And I'm looking forward to a fantastic summer of events within the city of Westminster. That is all, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Becker. Mr. Kamachi. No, sorry, no.
Yeah.
I know, I apologize. I'm so entranced by,
I usually
thinking
don't
about-
read this much.
thinking about- sorry, Mr. Baker. It's time for you to give our usual report of the Arts Council.
That was a wonderful report by the mayor.
It was.
And I liked how you were keeping Councilman Kavachi on his toes down.
I'm up on my screen, I was ready.
I would have assumed that you were ready. Arts Council. The Arts Council will be celebrating its 20th birthday this April. And I know the council president had a lot to do with the adaptive reuse of the Arts Council. And when you look at the arts and cultural programs in the city of Westminster, the Arts Council and the city's recreation parks folks play a critical role in that. That brings a lot of business to town, brings a lot of folks to town. We can be really proud of that. The Peep Show is coming up. Peep Show's March 31st through April the 10th. And they've got some sort of a program, I think it's called the Peep Show Passport or something like that, to they're going to hide peeps in various stores. And folks need to go to the various stores and find the peep. It's encouraging folks to shop and go downtown, and we're really happy about that. Art in the Park's coming up. Art in the Park's coming up on June 3rd. Hopefully by then it will be warm. And that always brings a lot of folks to town also. Attendance is really spiked at the Arts Council. Follow the Arts Council's website for more exciting information. And that'll be my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeHaan. Economic and Community Development, Mr. Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to note that we were originally scheduled to have a meeting this Friday. We've had to move that. We had a staff conflict, and we'll be rescheduling probably towards the end of the month. So staff will be reaching out to all the committee members to set up a new time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hoff. On behalf of the Finance Committee, just let everybody know that we have our next meeting scheduled for March 30th, and begin looking to start work on the budget. Personnel, Ms. Gilbert.
I just want to draw everybody's attention to our website regarding city positions. We have several positions available as we are nearing summer camp season and the opening of our new pool. So there are additional positions that are up on the website that normally would not be there. But we are nearing and needing to fill those positions. So please check the website, and the applications and the job position and descriptions are there. In addition, we have police entry level and lateral police officer positions available. So those applications are there for those positions also.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Kavachi, public safety.
There you go. So on the 6th of the month, Chief Ledwell attended the second quarterly Police Accountability Board meeting where he provided the board with the 2023 quarter one statistical information for them, as well as discussed several logistical matters. The state put a lot of things in place related to this that were not particularly well thought out. So we're trying to muddle our way through managing some of these things, and I think the chief is doing a really good job of getting us through it and helping them get through it as well. But it's a rocky start because the state didn't do a very good job planning this out. Anyway, on the 9th, the Westminster Police Department offered certified police officer. Is it Trevino? That's right. How he says it. Trevino Elliott, a job as a lateral hire police officer, which is always nice because they can ramp up quickly. Elliott is scheduled to start on the 27th, and he'll be attending a 4-week comparative compliance police academy. So he'll get up to speed with the laws within the state and the county and the city, things like that. On the 14th, which is tomorrow, members of the WPD will be facilitating Carroll County Chamber of Commerce Leadership Carroll Justice and Law Day in collaboration with partner agencies. And that should be a good time. Leadership Carroll is a really good opportunity to get in front of folks that typically are going to be in leadership type positions in the community. So it's good that you guys take some time and work with them. Is it a whole day event, Chief?
That's right.
Yeah. So on the 17th, police recruit Stephen Winkler will be graduating from the Carroll County Sheriff's Office Training Academy, and then he will subsequently begin his field training and evaluation program. And then lastly, Councilwoman Gilbert already touched on it, but it's great. We do have 2 new folks rolling in, but we do need more. Like every other police agency, I believe, in the entire United States, we are understaffed managing, but we're certainly always looking. And if anyone watching this in particular knows someone who's got some interest, we certainly love to talk to them and see if they'd be interested. I think we've got different recruiting things going on. You have a day coming up soon, right, where people can come and
we consolidate our testing. So once applicants apply, we do the physical ability, the written test, and then an oral board exam all in with that.
Which makes it really, it's very efficient for both us and them. So the opportunities are out there. We're looking for folks like every other agency in the country. So if you know someone who's been thinking about it, now is a good time to get into law enforcement. That is all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kavachi, and can you give us a report on Public Works as well?
I can. Public Works Department spent a lot of time and effort, as they always do, for all of our activities. I know the mayor alluded to how wonderful of an activity the Celtic Canter and the pub crawl and all was, and it was a wonderful day. But those things just don't happen without all the kind of behind the scenes work that the Public Works Department does making that happen. So they spent time getting that set up, time taking it down. We're certainly appreciative of that. Also, the Public Works Department installed new picnic tables over at City Park. I actually have seen those a couple of times. They were really nice. And I had to actually eat lunch on them once with my granddaughter. So very nice. Yeah, exactly. The Public Works Department milled and paved 158-foot patch on Dover Lane. That's quite a pothole to fill. And they cleaned up storm drain inlets on Sullivan Avenue. So that is it for Public Works, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Recreation and Parks, Mr. Dayhoff.
Celtic Cantor last Saturday was a big hit. We had lots of folks in town. It was a lot of fun. I had to sleep in Sunday from all the exertion. It was, but I have recovered. But it was a lot of fun to be out there with my colleagues, and it was a lot of fun to see a lot of friends and folks in downtown Westminster. That'll be my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. And I have no report from the Technology Committee at the time, so we will move on to council comments and discussion, which is the opportunity for council members to share their thoughts on anything that is not elsewhere on the agenda. Begin with the senior member of the council, Mr. Galachi.
You know, I'm Celtic Cantor, all that was wonderful. I'm not going to belabor the point. It was a great day. Looking forward to the rest of the season of activities. That's it, Mr. President.
All right, very good, Mr. Dayhoff.
Councilwoman Ann Gilbert and I attended the King ribbon cutting last week. It was a good event. It was good to see a lot of our friends and colleagues out there at that event. Want to echo the remarks of the mayor. Congratulating the chief on his 4th anniversary and all the hard work. The chief has brought a lot of really innovative things to the city of Westminster, really put us on the map. I want to echo the mayor's remarks. When a lot of the police reform stuff came forward, we had already adopted all of it. He can't wait. A lot of the other initiatives, the police reform initiatives, we had already adopted it. So I want to thank the chief for that, and also want to echo the mayor's remarks about the sense of cooperation with the delegation to Annapolis, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, the Carroll County government, the commissioner from District 3 at a town hall meeting the other day, and Councilwoman Gilbert sat up front with them, and I thought that was pretty cool. That was good stuff. The sense that, you know, we have to work with everybody pretty closely, and we do a really good job with that, and we set an example. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Ms. Gilbert.
I wanted to extend a thank you to Commissioner Tom Gordon. On Wednesday, March 8th, he held his first town hall meeting at the Bureau of Aging, and he invited Councilman Huff and myself to represent the council. Councilman Huff took care of the morning session, and I represented the council in the evening session. It was just refreshing to be a part of a meeting with the county commissioners. I was excited to be part of yet another step the city and the county are doing together to enhance the communication, not only among us, but with citizens of the city and other elected officials. It was a really nice evening. So thank you goes out to Tom. I also attended along with Councilman Dayhoff the team ribbon cutting. It was quite a delight and a fun evening, and their space was bright and colorful and full of balloons. I was there with my grandson, and apparently I was supposed to take a balloon home with us, but that didn't happen. So I might have to go back and visit some other time and grab a balloon. The last thing that everybody else was talking about was the Celtic Cantor. And again, even though Ms. Gruber is not here, she knocked it out of the park again for another wonderful event, along with the delightful swag that we received in our little bag. I believe Council President Pecoraro took home the prize for the most resemblance of a leprechaun. And Councilman Huff took the prize for taking advantage of the tail end of my foot recovery and whizzing past me in that to win the race. And I have to say, the little leprechaun run, I took part in that with my grandson, and and he ran and walked the whole entire little run. So he was excited that he kept saying, I'm running. So near the end, I had to bribe him with ice cream, but we made it. And afterwards, I was happy to see that all the downtown restaurants had plenty of waiting. There were like an hour and a half waits to get in and grab a table. So it is quite the evidence that our events do bring business to not only our downtown restaurants, but some of the restaurants on the outskirts of downtown. So I'm waiting for the wine straw. And that's all I've got.
Mr. Hobbs.
Well, my only comment about the Celtic Canter is that it was another fantastic event. And again, just shows what a great job our Parks and Rec staff and all the support they get from our police department, as well as streets department and public works to put on these events. I'm hard pressed to think of a city that's our size that puts on the kind of quality events that we consistently put on. So another fantastic job. And I too am looking forward to the wine show. The mayor touched on, the mayor and myself were down on March 1st for the House side bill. We voted out of the Environmental and Transportation Committee. And we are actually, I was just texting with Delegate Rose, we will actually be on the House floor tomorrow for first reading for the House side bill. So that's good news to know. The second reading. Thank you for clarifying that. It's the first reading when it goes to committee. Thank you, President Carroll. It's a little bit more familiar with the history, all the processes that take place. I've been learning a lot. But again, I really appreciate all the hard work that has taken place related to our water reuse bill, as well as some of our funding requests that happens from our standpoint, but also the staff standpoint, because there is a lot of hard work that went into that water reuse bill and all the technicalities of working on the language. And that's a real testimony to our city administrator, Ms. Imholtz, and also the people at MDE have been incredibly supportive of us. They were even at the subcommittee hearing and speaking in support of our bill when we were in subcommittee. So I really appreciate all the support of staff as well as our partners at MDE. That's it, Council President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hoff. I'll just add that going to Annapolis legislation is not something that the city often does, but since we had to do it this year to get this moving, when it was, and we realized that they might not have the authority to do what they needed to do to move our project forward. Glad to see how the elected officials and the staff have rallied. Thanks to Ms. Imholtz as well for all of her good work on this. And I think the city's made a pretty good showing as we've gone down there. I'm glad to see it's moving so quickly, and we really appreciate the work our delegation has done, particularly Senator Reddy and the Rose to move this along. So that's terrific. And my congratulations to the chief. It's been a good 4 years. His role as leader of the department, as well as his years as deputy before that. So it's terrific to have that happening. And we should probably find out when everybody else that versus on. Thank them in turn as well. He put it left out when we get to his anniversary. So anyway, I have to say something about the Celtic Canter. I know we talked about it a lot, but it was a very different environment than last year when I think we were virtually the only people running in 5 inches of snow. So it was nice to have a big crowd. For what was billed as a fun run, and it was fun. And we can't give our neighbors a reason to laugh at us and then laugh at them later on. what good we're doing, but I have to say, on the order of finish, that Mr. Hoff did seem determined. He bolted ahead of us. I valiantly stayed with Ms. Gilbert to keep her company. Mr. Dayhoff, tumbled along behind the two of us, but he kept it up. And then I have to thank the mayor and Mr. Kavachi for making sure that nobody was left behind. And bringing everybody in, so that was terrific.
We might have stopped along the way for several.
Well, that's our.
Yeah,
We were pleased to come back out and finish it with you.
that's true, yes, yeah.
And with that, we'll move on to unfinished business. There's no unfinished business of which I'm aware. Is there any unfinished business for the council? Given none, we'll move on. We have one business evening and we'll turn to Ms. Zimholz to fill us in on that. Zimholz.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dick is gonna give the staff report for this. Mr. Dick?
Thank you so much. Completed in 2021, the Wakefield Valley Park Master Plan envisioned a large event pavilion with corresponding indoor event space, storage, and restrooms located at the site of the former driving range. It was determined that locating the pavilion at this site was not feasible because there was no access to water, sewer, and electricity. Other locations were assessed, including the clubhouse banquet facility site. After an evaluation, it was determined that the clubhouse banquet facility could be repurposed as a large event pavilion. And portions of the existing structure could be maintained and renovated to serve the pavilion and restroom facility, storage, and indoor event space. Project funding. To assist with advancing the goals of the Wakefield Valley Park Master Plan, the city received $1 million from the state FY23 capital budget. Additionally, $200,000 of program state funding was allocated to the city for this project. ARPA funds are being requested to cover the remaining project balance. A budget amendment will be needed to allocate the ARPA funds. The project was placed out to bid as a design build opportunity on December 15, 2022. A mandatory pre-bid meeting and a site visit was held on January 6, 2023. The opportunity for follow-up site visits and additional interior access was provided on January 12, 2023. All bid submissions were due 2 p.m. on February 10, 2023. The city received 6 submissions. The bid results are reflected in the table as follows. Wickersham Construction Engineering, Inc., with a total bid of $3,171,528 with a net alternate of minus $400,000 for a proposal total of $2,771,528. Jeffrey Brown Contracting, in total base was $2,315,826 with an added alternate of adding $576,390 for a total of $2,892,216. Building Concepts, total base bid was $2,371,500 with an $896,900 added alternate for a total of $3,268,400. Keller Brothers Inc. had a total base bid of $6,598,825 with an added alternate of $400,000 for a purpose total of $6,998,825. Builder Guru Contracting had a base bid of $7,902,725 with no add alternate for a total price of $7,902,725. Myers Building System base bid was $8,440,000 even with no add alternate for an $8,440,000 total. After careful reviewing of all 6 bid respondents, city staff invited 3 companies back to present their concept for repurposing the clubhouse / banquet facility into an event pavilion and community building. One of those 3 companies was the leader in experience, design capabilities, and project understanding. This company demonstrated a thorough understanding of the goals of this project and the opportunities and constraints that exist with this type of facility retrofit. Wickersham Construction and Engineering, Inc. presented a thoughtful and dynamic conceptual design to capture the primary benefits of the project, as well as the highest and best use of the space. Staff recommends that the Mayor and Common Council accepts the bid from Wickersham Construction Engineering, Inc. for $2,771,000 $528 for the design build of the Wakefield Valley Park Event Pavilion and Community Building, as further described in the bid documents. In order to execution of the associated contract. We have the contractor here to do a small presentation, so I'd like to introduce Mr. Hartman.
Good evening, Matt Hartman with Wickersham Construction and Engineering. Here with Dave Nace, President of Wickersham, and Doug Tilley, President of TKS Architects. We hand it over now?
Yep.
Hand it over to Doug or walk you through the project. Here we go. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having us here. One of the things we did when we toured the building, the original proposal was to draw a line basically down column line 7 over to column line 8 and eliminate that the side of the building here that's shaded. One of the things that I saw was an issue with that was by doing that, you were eliminating the bathrooms, eliminating the main entrance. So as you had the banquet room here, you would be entering directly into it with no reception area or waiting area or anything like that. So I thought that that might be a bit of something you want to think about. So I was thinking, well, we probably at least want to build a lobby and a main entrance so that you'd be able to come in and congregate before going into the banquet room. The other issue is the bathrooms. There are no bathrooms on this floor if we wipe that out. So we're going to need to add an elevator and another stair to provide access to the bathrooms downstairs where the locker rooms were. The other option would be then to build new bathrooms on this level. So now we've taken away this part of the building, but now we're adding all of this and we're adding these things, to try to make the building work better. When we look downstairs, once again, we're going to eliminate this part of the building. We do have the restrooms down here where the locker rooms are now. This is the men's locker room, the women's locker room. But as we look at the program, we now have these locker rooms that were unassigned space. So what are we going to do with these locker rooms? Additionally, we have this lounge area, which above here is a terrace, a deck. This thing over the years has just been a sieve. Water has been coming in and it's a real problem. So we were trying to think, what can we do with that thing to try to, the fact that the deck goes over top of it is a real issue. So one of the things, oh yes, I wanted to do this. Does anyone remember Cat Stevens, Teaser and the Fire Cat? I said, what back there? This was the teaser, obviously. That's the Fire Cat. And I wanted to show you this. This is our teaser for you guys as we move forward. So this is a 3D model that we did that I'll be presenting to you as we go along. So one of the things we were proposing is rather than eliminating this whole side of the building is that we would cut along column line C and along column line 7 and just eliminate this part. Because what that would do then is allow us to keep the restrooms, keep the main entrance where it is. I'm relocating a stair that's in here that goes up to an office. That's all it goes to. Get rid of that to keep the main entrance where it is, where everyone knows where it is, and create this sort of reception hall so you can gather here and then come into the banquet room. So we have everything on this level. The other thing, by opening this up to be the pavilion, I'm figuring we put some windows across here and you could look down into the pavilion and things like that. So the kitchen that was there would become a catering prep kitchen. There's not going to be any hood or ovens or anything. It's going to be for caterers to come in, prepare meals to be used in the multi-purpose room if that's required. When I look downstairs, same sort of thing. We're going to eliminate this area. We're going to keep the golf club storage, and this was the pro shop inventory area. This is a mechanical room, so that's going to have to stay. And then I'm thinking we just, if you excuse the term, nuke the lounge, just get rid of that thing. So by doing that, then what we have downstairs, we have the open pavilion area, and then what was the golf club storage could become pavilion storage, where we put tables and chairs and things like that would be brought out. Mechanical room remains. The stairwell that went upstairs originally was an open stair. We'll enclose the stair so if you're upstairs and you're coming down, you can do it. This could be locked and stuff, so you can't go up to the banquet room. What were the locker rooms would make meeting rooms. Create large bathrooms where the restrooms were before. We don't need showers. We don't need all that stuff. So we're creating large new restrooms, and then of course getting rid of that lounge. And what this does nice is that now we have the meeting room upstairs, the banquet room. We have 2 large meeting rooms down here, so we could become a conference center. Let people, if they want to have exhibits upstairs and have seminars downstairs. You could even use the pavilion area on nice days, things like that. So the other thing that's nice by getting rid of this lounge and stuff is that if we have people just using the pavilion, we can have these doors unlocked and they can have access to these restrooms. Or anyone using the park.
meeting rooms.
Right, without, keep the meeting rooms locked off. But they can have access to the restrooms, and use the pavilion. If we have folks that are using the meeting rooms, we unlock these doors and have access to the whole thing. The other thing I thought was if we put some doors in here, this room could actually become overflow for the pavilion and stuff, or, things could filter out. So this was a concept we kind of presented in lieu of just tearing the whole side of the building off. So this is our 3D model, and looking at the southwest corner, this is where that lounge was. So we get rid of that. You can see that's the new entrance into the restrooms. These are windows where the new meeting rooms are there. And then you can see what's happening over here at the pavilion. So swinging around a little bit more, you can start to see what's going on here. A little bit more. A little bit more. This is actually what the pavilion would look like just by eliminating that area. Oh, and if I could back up just a minute, I wanted to point out where you can kind of see up in here those windows that are up in that main reception hall that you can look down into the pavilion and stuff too. And then you can also see back in here where those doors are from that meeting room that we could use to spill out. So, yeah, and then this would be the pavilion. If you'll pardon my language,
Big ass fans.
there is a company called the Big Ass Fan Company. And we're proposing, we'll throw a couple of those in here to keep the air circulating and stuff. This is a south-facing view this way. So there will be some heat and air in the summertime. But the nice thing is our sun is going to be coming around this way, and the building will actually work to block some of the real hot sun, as it comes around. So, yes, but thank you for. So, as you come on around, the nice thing about this too is that we're preserving the entire front of the building. So the main entrance remains the main entrance. All the banquet room stays the same. Oh, I forgot. My tech guy wanted to make sure I pointed out. Can you see he put a rainbow in?
It's still pot of gold at the end of.
That's right. So, and then here we are back at the front again. So basically, the building, to the public is going to look the exact same. As you're in the parking lot, you're coming up and you're seeing it. Because the thing that really caught our attention when we were out there, this is the dramatic side. That has all the roof lines and all that kind of stuff. And to just chop that off and get rid of it, just to us didn't make any sense, especially like I said, when you start seeing all the spaces that are missing. I wanted to touch on, have we ever done this type of thing before? TKS Architects, we have a lot of experience at taking building, doing adaptive reuse, things like that. Surprisingly, one of my proudest ones is this little Duck Donut store. Have any of you ever been to a Duck Donuts? So we've done 80 of those around the country. But this was a Verizon store, and we converted to that to look more like a beachy sort of store, stuff like that. Old warehouse that we converted into, but anyway, one of the projects we're working on right now, which is very similar to this, if you will, it's a 35,000 square foot. It's a church, but it's more like a cathedral. It's in Sunbury. We're working for the Sunbury Revitalization Incorporated, which is a part of the city of Sunbury. But we're taking this grand old church and turning it into a performing arts center. It's currently under construction, but it's got this huge dome in it. these are up in here and here on both sides. We're gonna take these out, we're gonna have private boxes up in there and stuff like that. So, you know, it's a very similar scope where we're dealing with a building of the previous use and adapting it to something else. Wickersham has some projects also that, you know, probably people would recognize. I heard you guys mention Eldersburg earlier. We are working together right now on a new medical office building in Eldersburg, right there. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions you might have.
All right.
So,
Thank you very much.
yes, indeed.
So we're gonna go back to Ms. Impulse, who would like to, review questions she's gonna try and farm them out to the right people. But before that, let's get this properly before us. May I have a motion to accept the bid?
Make a motion to accept.
Second, a motion by Ms. Gilbert. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Dayhoff. All right. So we'll open up any questions or comments anybody has. I still say before we do that I had the opportunity along with Mr. Hoff this morning to tour the old clubhouse. And I have not been in there for many years. Certainly been there often during its heyday, you know, and, enjoyed, the restaurant and, a little golfing and a lot of, weddings and other social events there. And I'm really, I've been uncomfortable with the idea of just kind of demolishing it for some time. And I'm pleased that, we found a use for it. I always thought it'd be a waste not to take advantage of the existing building. And I'm really appreciative of the staff to reimagining. I know that the confluence of events of not having water and electricity at the original site, created that problem. But I'm glad that they turned to using this, and thinking how we can do this. I'm also glad we're able to do this without using any taxpayer funds. I think that's a perfect thing that we're able to find a way to manage to recreate this new facility for the citizens that way. And finally, in repurposing the space this way, we're able to add a valuable service to the community while doing something that I thought was important when we first started thinking about what to do with the park and the old golf course. And that was to find new uses for it without significantly or even increasing at all the intensity of the use there. And I think that, one of the clubhouse, it was used for these kinds of events before, or for a variety of events before. And, what we're doing here won't be, more intensive use, which I think is important for us to keep in mind. So I think it's terrific. I'm really pleased that we're moving forward with this. Anybody have any questions or comments on this? There.
I would like to echo your comments. I have not been in the clubhouse since maybe 2015 or 2016. So I can't imagine what it looks like inside now. It was pretty bad when I went in now. So when I went in a number of years ago. But I have to say, I'm really impressed with your presentation and your bid submission for this. I think that, when we first started to discuss this, I was more sort of along the lines of just, starting from scratch and thinking about something that's purpose-built, because I think I couldn't see myself personally how the rest of that clubhouse could be utilized. And thank goodness for folks like you that do this sort of thing, because I think you have presented something that is really great for that location. And I'm incredibly happy with the way it looks. I think it just looks fantastic. I do have one very quick question. Is there any plan? I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into things. Is there any plan for enclosing the pavilion in the winter, or will it remain open? Yeah, I just think, some pavilions have like these big plasticky, sort of. So is there?
You're on the right page. So we presented both ideas.
Okay.
It was felt that keeping it open was most like the original concept. That's not to say that it wouldn't make sense to use like the roll-up plastic type vinyl that you see in restaurants, but we didn't want to enclose it too much. So that's entirely possible and provides a lot of advantages.
Another option we discussed is
garage doors. We have, you see restaurants that do that as well.
Mhm.
Closing it. So-
But how would you do?
Well, before we get into the exchange, we want to go back to Ms. Nichols. Manage.
Thank you. The current bid on the table does not include enclosing that. There are ways that it could be done at a later point. This is also a design build contract, so some of these details get ironed out in the process of designing it. But at the moment, the decision was made to not include that.
That's fine.
Mr. Hawk, did you have a question? Mr. Hawk, did you have a question?
No, I was just asking about, because when you said garage doors, I'm having trouble envisioning how that would work. But again, it's a design build. So, we're gonna navigate through that process.
And we'll be in touch with the staff as they go forward, as they're developing the design of the building. I'm confident that they'll also be sharing this with us frequently, and we'll be able to have some input on how it finally turns out.
Yeah, Mr. President, along the way, obviously, when we do a project like this, because it is a design build, I certainly, as myself, as a member of council that has some familiarity with construction, though I don't normally do a job of this size, I certainly would like updates along the way as some of those decisions are made in the process. I think, in all frankness, having dealt with architects and such like that before, your thought about keeping the front of the building makes so much sense and was definitely a great idea. And also to provide some additional weather screening, because while you're an open pavilion, you on two sides you're not. I think there's a lot of good work I already see in the thought that has gone into this between staff and you all. So great.
Mr. President.
Mr. Kalachi this week.
So, it's really great, looks awesome, really exciting and all that in terms of how it looks. But, I'm sure when we built the pool, took it over, everybody was super excited about that. And here we are spending many millions of dollars to rebuild it. We've got to continually maintain it. We've got to continually staff it, spend money on it year over year. So we have to remember this, $2.7 million is not money that we need. First of all, I'd be fighting tooth and nail against this if this was taxpayer funds, direct city funds that we were spending on this project. But because Ms. Imholz and staff have gone out and got this money to fund it through both the state, and then we have the federal ARPA funding, which it makes sense to use those funds for something like this. So, I think as far as the capital expense that we're going to incur potentially doing this, not being taxpayer funds, I don't have to stand up here and jump up and down as to why we shouldn't do it and use city taxpayer funds. But I think it's really important that we understand that there is going to be ongoing costs that are going to be incurred for this, both in year over year expenses just to have staff and electricity and water. All those things are going to cost money, and they won't be inconsequential. I asked Ms. Imholz to put together, what you call it, a back of the envelope.
Back of the envelope.
Kind of, because we really don't know, and this is happening a little bit quickly. So, I don't think we're going to have two penny numbers, but you want to tell us what you came up with and what that amounts to? And I'd like to discuss that just a little bit, but I'd also, Mr. President, let's go through a few other little things as well as we do that. Is that okay?
Sure.
So we're gonna have about $50,000 in one-time expenses to put tables and chairs, get some security cameras, etc. And then back of the envelope means, from my perspective, as best guesstimate we have, the utilities are a question. We're using the Arts Council building as the basis for how we're developing our utilities costs. But we don't have a facility that is top of the line with everything up to date. So it's a bit of a guess a little bit, but with utilities and security and cleaning and potentially an event planning type contract position in order to help manage the building and bring in entities who would be renting it, et cetera. We were looking at about $90,000 in our estimate, so an estimate of somewhere between $90,000 and $125,000 as an ongoing operational cost, I don't think is out of the realm of possibility. Now, of course, there will be a rental fee schedule that will come before the council at some point when we have a better understanding of what that might look like. It is my hope that this would be as close to net neutral as possible. But you know, some of that is dependent on quite a few things. So that's sort of the picture we're looking at right now.
Thank you. Mr. Levy.
Thank you, Mr. Molson. I know we had an opportunity to talk a little earlier today with that, and she went into a little more detail with me on those numbers. And again, it's a lot of guessing, but I think she's being reasonable in how she came up with them. But I do want to say, you know, I think it's critical that it is absolutely net neutral in its operation. I realize when it comes to capital expenses, it's going to be challenged to get it there. Fortunately, it hopefully will be a while before we have too many major capital expenses coming up, but they're going to happen. And we have to cathedrally think. We've all used that term, thinking cathedral. And, you know, we've got to think about what does this mean for the council that, you know, one of our children or great-grandchildren sits on, and then they've got to deal with this $8 million expense to redo the entire building. We just have to remember that this isn't $2.7 million we're spending here. We're committing the citizens of Westminster to a long-term project that's going to cost money. Hopefully we'll bring in money, but there's going to be a cost. Now, where I'm going to be comfortable voting yes for this, because I'm already telegraphing that, is because I believe that, and I really liked something you said in terms of this isn't just going to be a kid's birthday party venue or, you know, having a few nice events. I think if we couch this as a conference center and as an economic driver and an engine that can bring more things to the community, well, then it's worth it. And we're taking those taxpayer dollars that we're going to spend on this and we're turning them back around and generating revenue for the community. And to that end, I hope that, and I know this is not part of the bid, but I think we have to talk it through because we're going to let this bid out. And then once that horse is galloping, it's gone. And we're not going to bring it back in the barn. I think that city residents and city businesses in particular need to have a priority use of this facility. They should be the ones first and foremost catering there or using the facility. They should have first dibs on it and they should have a reduced price relative to outside the city entities. So if Salerno's, and I'm not picking on them, but they're a great caterer, people use them all the time, but if they're gonna have an event here, or so whatever this looks like, they need to pay more than what one of our local, I'm not gonna pick one because I want to be biased, but one of our local restaurants. And I think we need to create an SOP that, and I realize again, that's not part of this bid, Mr. President, but I think I want to get this on the record that this is something that we should, in my opinion, be cognizant of and make sure that we follow through on this, because we may not be here. Some of us are going to be gone, but I hope that somebody will look back in the record and see this is what our intention was, or my intention, and if you guys agree with me, is that this is a very city-centric facility that will benefit local businesses. And that they get priority, both cost-wise, scheduling-wise, things like that. And some other notes, I'm sorry, Mr. President. Yeah, so you know what, I think that's it. I think everything else was good. I think it's beautiful. I'm excited about it. Look, you know, I was here when we got the property and played a role in that. And, you know, we had a vision that this would eventually turn into something that was going to be very positive for the community, and I think this is in line with that. And look, with Martin's going away, I think there's even going to be more of a demand for this type of facility. So I'm excited about it. I'm going to vote yes for it, but I'm going to vote yes for it with the understanding that we're all hopefully aware of what we're committing ourselves to, and we're all going to be committed to following through and making sure this is revenue neutral on an operating date, a year-over-year expense, and maybe even we can get it to the point where it is generating enough positive revenue that we can put some money away. So when it needs a new air conditioning unit or it needs new tables and chairs or whatever, because they've gotten worn out. We'll have some funding for that. We're not just, pulling it out of the, general fund. So that's it.
That's right. Well,
Thank you.
Ms. Gilbert's waiting.
Okay.
Ms. Gilbert.
So I'm excited about this. It looks really great. But to mention, one of the goals I had when I began, my time on council was to look at the redeveloping of Wakefield. And luckily, in the 4 years I've sat here, we actually began doing that. We've listened to the community, we've thought about what they want, what the community wanted for that space. However, the clubhouse to me is the focal point of all of that space. And it is one of the most important things, I think, at Wakefield. And to see this and to see how staff has used their creativity and you guys to design something that not only is going to be great for the city, but as Councilman Kavachi mentioned, also for the businesses of this community. And I also want to reiterate that I think this is a great opportunity, not only for our citizens, but also for our businesses to be the caterers or to be the people who rent the space, or the Nor Breaks to have the first pick, to have their conference there, or their whatever it is that they want to have. Maybe it's Ting, maybe it's Magic, who knows? And to not only push their business, but also us as Westminster. So I think this building has a huge potential. And I'm excited for it. So I thank you guys for your thoughts, and also staff.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Mr. Leon, did you want to be heard before we get back to you?
Yes, I understand Mr. Kavachi's concerns about operating expenses. A lot of folks can find capital money, but they overlook operating expenses. But I believe that if we look at a staff that does all the phenomenal things that they do for our community, this is an extraordinarily capable and competent staff. And I believe that we can get adequate and appropriate return off of our investment. I'm not looking for it to be budget neutral. I'm looking for it to bring in revenue. I think it will. I also want to look upon it as a regional conference center. I believe it's going to bring a lot of folks to Westminster. And I think it's simply a win-win. I've been involved in adaptive reuse. I've been involved in projects, some as large as this. There's going to be some challenges, that's for sure. I'm familiar with the building. I'm very familiar with the building. I'm really happy that you're going to save the skylights. The skylights are the source of a lot of romantic narrative. The only question that I have, and I want to echo the mayor's remarks, that I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into anything, however, but I'm not comfortable with not putting in a commercial kitchen. I don't know if that was a cost constraint or if that was, I think that we should be prepared to put in a commercial kitchen down the road, maybe when it becomes apparent that the return is available. But I've seen this mistake with other clients before, a commercial kitchen. And then I've also seen the approach to call it a garage door is not appropriate. It's a high-end enclosure.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. I think everybody's had a chance to weigh in on this now. Anything else, closing comments from the staff? Was there anything you want to add?
No, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Great.
Mr.
Very
President,
good, Mr. Cavalli.
one last thing, we echo what Mr. Hawk said, it's where this falls. We're now in the catering and / event hall business. We have to recognize that. We got into the pool business, we've done the fitness center business, and now we're getting into the catering and event hall business. So we just have to be prepared for that, wherever that's gonna land and fall. So again, we gotta go into a clear eye what we're getting into. A lot of positive, there's also gonna be some drag.
Yeah, well, it's always the case whenever we offer any services.
That's exactly right.
But, but that's not stopped us before, we saw a need to offer our citizens, better access to high-speed internet.
Yep,
That's when
absolutely.
we built the Westminster fiber network. Years ago, we saw the need to continue, access to aquatic sports, and so we took over the pool and it's part of it go under, we built parking garages, and we developed, we run the way of developing properties that we need of somebody stepping in to make sure something happens. So we've not been afraid to do these things in the past, and I think that this is something that's a little bit different for us, but not terribly different from the other things that we've done. And I think that Ms. Elmos, even though it's back of the envelope, I think she's charted a pretty reasonable path forward on how we'll manage this property. And as somebody who has, I don't claim to be an expert in this, but certainly in other roles that I've had, I've been responsible for trying to organize retreats and find spaces like that. And I can tell you that there's limited space for that. And even when we in the city have tried to do that, we found we had limited options. So I think there is going to be a real clientele for this. I think, it's going to take a while to ramp up. I think we have to educate, the community of people who are interested in that kind of space, that it's available and want to market it a bit. But, I have no doubt that over in a relatively short period of time, the word will spread that this is available, and that it's a high quality venue, and that it's, that it's available to people. I think there will be a lot of local use for it and some regional use. And I think that it will attract, there'll be one more thing that we can offer, Central Maryland, as an opportunity to say, wow, look at Westminster, which is something that we've done pretty frequently in the past. So I'm proud that we're going to be able to have that opportunity to scale. So with that, we move on to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have, the ayes have it. And we award the bid. Good luck with it, also.
We're looking forward to working on it.
Look forward to your design. And just to follow up on a couple of points that were made, I think, monitoring this goes along with economic and community development, so Mr. Hoffman.
I just noticed the screen. It just came back when we approved it, so I thought.
No change orders. Like everyone.
So what is this? I'm gonna ask Mr. Hoffman, the economic community development, because I think it is a community development project, take the lead and, kind of oversee, what's happening, report back and make sure that, you asked for it.
Okay.
Ms. Gilbert.
I just wanted to add, there was a point in time we didn't have strolls in downtown Westminster. There was a point in time, there probably wasn't a recreational facility. We are in the gym business, we are in the stroll business. We have a staff in all of the departments that are absolutely amazing, and we have an amazing city administrator. I do not doubt that even though we're now going to be into a catering kind of business, I guess, to add to all the others, that we won't do it with 100% effort, 100% success rate. And that at some point in time, I foresee that it will become a profitable business, and it is going to be something that I think, again, what people will look at Westminster and say, wow, look at what they're doing again. So there's my positive Pollyanna look on it.
Thank you. All right, so I think we're With that, gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. You're welcome to stick around and watch the rest of the show, or you can leave. You'd like to get home.
We don't mind if you leave.
It's fine. We have one item under new business. We go into a closed meeting, and for that, we'll turn to Clark for minutes.
Mr. President, I'd like to move the common council to adjourn into a closed meeting at the conclusion of the Mayor and Common Council meeting of Monday, March 13, 2023, in accordance with the general provisions article of the annotated code of Maryland 3-305B subsection 7 to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice.
Thank you, Mr. Kavachi. Is there a second?
Second.
With a motion by Mr. Kavachi and a second by Mr. Hawk to go into a closed meeting at the conclusion of our regular meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. And we will go into that closed meeting when we are finished here tonight. Now it's time for departmental reports. Ms. Inhouse.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank the mayor and council for the vote tonight to support the Wakefield Clubhouse. We were in a position to make that happen in a very efficient and effective way because of a lot of decisions that this council and the council before you made in order to get us there. And you know me, I like to celebrate a win when we've got one. In 2019, we established, I say we, I wasn't here then, but the city established the master plan. That process, I'm sure, was very difficult. And that set up Wakefield in a way that future generations like me could go find money and implement. So thank you for those of you in this room and those of you who are listening that worked hard on that particular planning process. We've gone after many grants. We've talked about that. Going after all those grants and being very thoughtful in the way that we've allocated the ARPA funding has allowed us to be prepared for an opportunity like this that we can, take advantage of. And then the staff have been working together so well in all departments that when we came up to the problem of not having enough water, not having water access rather at the site, we initially thought that we would put the pavilion. The staff was able to quickly pivot, come up with what I think is even a better solution than the original one to capitalize on efficiencies. And all of that is in place because of all those small decisions that you've made along the way and over the last few years. So thank you for your constant support, for thinking, as Councilmember Kavachi mentioned, in a cathedral kind of way. I like to use the term legacy projects. Thank you for thinking forward like that and getting us in a position so that we can capitalize on these opportunities. I'd like to take just a moment to talk about the canter from Saturday, because as you notice, I'm representing the Recreation Department today. We've given Ms. Gruber the evening off. Any chance we can give her a little time break, we try to do that. And the Monday after an event is sometimes the best time to do that. For those of you who are listening and for Mayor and Council, staff had to get to the site, start preparing for this event at 4:30 in the morning. And while none of them would say that out loud, I want to take the opportunity to say it to you. We have an extremely dedicated staff, some of whom live out of state, but still consider this community their community. And any employee who's willing to show up at 4:30 in the morning is a community member in my mind. So I want to take the opportunity to thank the Recs and Park Department, the Public Works Department, and the Police Department. The Celtic Canter is an enormous event. We don't think of it like that because it's not necessarily a stroll, but we are hosting running races that shut down an enormous part of town. We're hosting a festival, and then we're also hosting a bit of a pub crawl. So it is a day's event that takes up an enormous amount of staff time. So I want to thank everyone for doing that. It was quite cold on Saturday too. So we had people standing outside in the freezing cold, and I want to thank everyone for that. You'll also notice that I'm representing the finance department tonight. And I just want to let you know that we are hard at work preparing the budget. If any of the council members have any exciting budget items that they haven't mentioned to me yet that they would like to be included for consideration in the fiscal year 24 budget, please let me know as soon as possible, as we are starting to make some of those decisions now. And we'll set the schedule of the finance committee for April. So far, so good, which is great. Nice to have a finance director budget together. All right, we're going to start now with the Human Resources Department. Ms. McCullough?
No report this evening for Human Resources.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for human resources? Seeing none, we'll move on to Public Works Department. Mr. Dick?
Just touch on a few things. A couple months back, council approved storm pond extension pipes. They started the first one at Hobbit's Lane. Should have been completed today. They had to put a collar on it and it would have been done. So we are now grading. You'll notice that the trail has barricades up on each side, taking the equipment in and out of there, destroyed the trail. So we're now in the process of that part of it now, getting that cleaned up and gonna get that repaved. And while we're doing it, we're just gonna repave it from Uniontown to Windsor. That whole stretch, it's probably the oldest stretch. In my opinion, I traveled all the time. It's probably the worst condition even before this happened. So we would have been doing this in the next year or two anyhow. So that'll be happening here shortly. The roofs at Carroll Arts on 45. The aluminum came in, so they were finishing that, those two projects up. Hopefully tomorrow, because I'm getting tired of hearing them on the roof. I'm sure other people are too. So hopefully that'll be taken care of. And with the break of weather, the ADA ramp project that was paused over the winter has started back up. They're continuing that process. And as of right now, that's all I have. Unless there's any question.
Mr. Dick, do you have the dates in front of you for when the clock tower
Yes.
scaffolding will start?
Yes, so on April 3rd and 4th is when we will be reducing those shifting lanes on Main Street for the clock tower for the scaffolding to be erected. It's going to be 2 days from 7 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. During those 2 days, they will set the crane up, setting all the scaffolding up. We're in the process now of all the business owners notifying them. And so that'll be happening actually right around the corner. But we did get a traffic control plan brought in and we got that approved. So we will maintain two lanes traffic.
Is it also?
Yes.
Can we get an idea for the street improvement program, the streets that are gonna be under repair during the season?
So if you recall, we went to bid for pavement management. Is that what we're asking about? We went to bid in the fall and the world was still upside down then and the prices were out of control. So we made a decision to not pave this year. So we have in the upcoming fiscal year 24 budget, an additional $1 million that we're preparing for. And we would like to go to bid for that in May or so that we'll plan to, if all goes well, kind of do both at the same time in July. So we'll be right behind schedule, might even start in June because we still have money this fiscal year.
Right.
So we'll be slightly behind schedule, but we'll catch up right away.
Right. But when you have an idea to build, show us the streets that'll be, what the street.
Oh, the actual streets,
Yes.
of course.
People have to solve.
People have
We have this all the time.
Sure, absolutely. I'll send that out. to you.
Mr. President,
Please go ahead.
Could we possibly make those streets, do a public service announcement or on Facebook and so that people actually, other than those.
We should.
Yeah.
Asking us, but I think it would be nice if we let
Yeah,
people
we should
know so they can.
That's been helpful in the past.
Mr. Hall.
Just out of curiosity, what is the estimated timeline for the clock tower project?
That should be done August, end of August.
End of August. Okay, thank you.
One final public works items, as many of you have seen, the lights have come down from the trees. That is everyone was sad about that, although I'm excited for spring to get here finally. We have to do that to allow the trees to continue to grow. And if we left the lights up, then they would grow around the lights. So the lights, assuming that gets adopted in the budget next year, or I find someone else to pay for it, those will go back up in October.
Okay.
Yeah, for the season. Does anyone have any other questions for the Public Works Department? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Planning Department. Mr. Depot.
Thank you and good evening. On March 16th, the Planning and Zoning Commission is scheduled to review the draft 2022 City of Westminster Planning Annual Reporting Information. This essentially is taking all the operating report information from the Community Planning Department and package that into one report. We provide that to the county. They then take the other jurisdictions and come up with a countywide annual report. They will also be reviewing the City of Westminster's chapter of the Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan Triannual Update for consistency with the City of Westminster Comprehensive Plan. This was adding CIP water and sewer projects to the master plan. This was an oversight that Ms. Emhoff realized, and by adding these CIP projects, we can actually benefits us to go for grant funding for those projects. If they are not listed in this document, it makes that somewhat difficult. It's also updating the water reuse project information just so it's keeping pace with the as that moves forward. On March 21st, an administrative adjustment hearing is scheduled for 71 and 73 West Main Street. This is to allow reduction in the required number of parking spaces and to allow vehicles to back out directly on the Union Alley. Commercial vehicles have to enter and exit the site in a forward motion. This will allow a small number of vehicles to be able to do that. And that completes my report.
Any questions for the planning department? Thank you, Mr. Repo. Councilmember Dayhoff, do you have any report from the fire department?
Yeah, at this point in time, we should pick up the month of January and February. The total costs for the month of January were 647. EMS calls were 553. Fire calls were 94. 358 of those calls were inside the city limits. 237 were just outside the city limits. The one statistic we're always worried about, overlapping calls. 57% of the time when you called for a medic unit from the City of Westminster Fire Department, we had to use an outside agency to come in and help us out because all our medic units were allocated. Let's look at February. For the month of February, we had 555 calls. EMS was 458. 97 were for fire. 297 of the calls were in the city limits. 198 was in the first due area. Overlapping calls was 51%. Unless there's any questions, that'll be my report. Thank you, Mr. Muller.
Councilmember. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the housing department, Mr. Brown.
I have no report for that.
Oh, okay. Any questions for the housing department? We will circle things up with the police chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We did have a bicyclist who was struck on the 8th while crossing over Route 27, hit by a truck, and unfortunately died of his injuries. When we have a serious collision like that, we always minimally mark the scene so we can go back and do a reconstruction. So the Carroll County crash team is doing that reconstruction, and then they will follow up with a finding and any potential follow-up action after that. Our patrol bureau officers caught a suspect who stole a purse from a family. And were able to return it with all the contents intact. They were appreciative of that, so that worked out well. PFC Kevin Shinaki took possession of our new canine, which is a yellow Labrador. I believe he's in Leo. And they will begin a 6-week training program in the near future. And that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Any questions for the police chief? Mr. President, that concludes the departmental reports.
All right, very good. Well, thank you, Ms. Imhoff. Final item on our agenda is citizen comments, when we invite the public to address the mayor and council on any issues that pertain to tonight's agenda or any other meeting. For citizens not attending the public meeting, we invite you to send us your comments or concerns via email at comments@westminstermd.gov. All comments received by email will be shared with the mayor and council. We ask commenters to please include their address and phone number with their comment. We don't really have anybody here in the audience tonight to invite guests in person other than those who already done so. So we'll move on from that. And say that concludes our agenda for our regular meeting. And our next regular meeting, we hope